on the LCAS website. So welcome to all of those who've actually arrived on time, which is great. We've got a couple of interesting things for you today. We've got Simon Crowther from Outstanding Homecare. We've got Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life, which is in itself an interesting area because we are getting a lot of questions about what first aid training people should actually be doing. And also welcome to Laura, who will give us an update from Skills for Care, and there's a couple of very useful things in there as well. Now, Dudley, I'm not sure if you're going to stay for the whole event or whether you're disappearing, so anything you'd like to say?
Thank you very much. I'm here briefly at the moment, but I will be popping in and out. I think it's a great time when we think about meetings of providers. We always talk about CQC, we talk about retention recruitment, we talk about digitalization of the sector, but I think there is almost a common theme is that most of the sector is made up of 75 of private providers. And I think we have to think, if we look at that stat in itself, we really have to think about the business side of social care. And today we're looking at a business masterclass of a turnaround and seeing the effect of how business has been regards to the service we're providing. So whether you're a dom care, whether you're a care home, you know, it really does add up to see whether a business pays. And we know that a lot of people are leaving the sector because they can't afford to stay in the sector. We've got new businesses that turn up, and I'm sure Simon will let you know that they may not last or they're not actually making the money. And it leads to things such as burnout, people leaving the sector. And fundamentally, it means that the people that we're looking after are not getting the right quality of care. So I think the business case for working in this sector is really important. So I look forward to this, and I hope everyone takes notes and makes the most of it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dudley. Simon, I guess that's a good key in for you to introduce yourself and go with it.
Yeah, my name's Simon Crowther. I kind of got two hats now. I run a consultancy called Care Skill Consulting, where we undertake mock CQC inspections, business turnarounds. We help with business development, and that's across all regulated sectors. So that's CQC in England, it's Ofsted as well in England for children's homes. It's the Welsh regulator, it's the Scottish regulator, and it's the Northern Ireland regulator. So across the whole of the UK. We work with huge organisations such as, for example, Seracare. We've got a big project on with Seracare at the moment. We did the due diligence for CareTech PLC, have just raised 200 million investment from an investor, and we did the operational due diligence on behalf of that investor of CareTech's children's homes. But we also work with owner operators, and we work with people who are just entering the sector, who want to know more about how to set up a business. And we've got several programs for that. So we work across the whole gamut. I'm also a provider again as well, and I'll say again because I'll come on to a bit of background and history to me. I currently own with partners 2 domiciliary care businesses. I bought one just under 2 years ago in Plymouth, and we were awarded Lang & Bousson Best Home Care Provider last year. For that's called Tamar Home Care. And then I've just acquired another provider in Somerset, Taunton Home Care, and I'm just in the negotiation now to purchase a third branch. I can't say that is because it's still in negotiation for that. So hopefully that will complete next week. So we'll have 3 branches on there. So that's kind of what I'm up to at the moment. In terms of my background, is I entered the social care sector in 2000. I don't have an ordinary kind of career path. I studied engineering at university. I became an engineer at Land Rover as my first job. Hated that, joined the army, was in the army for 7 years as an engineering officer. Left that, went into banking, and absolutely despised banking, working in the city. And it was then that myself and my brother decided that he was an accountant, hated his job, and we thought we would go into start a home care business. This was in 2000. We weren't total novices in the fact that we understood it. My mum was a nurse and had a couple of small care homes. So we grew up in that kind of sector. So we did understand a little bit of the sector. We weren't completely blind to it. But we weren't new to home care. And that was in 2000. And we went from complete startup. So I went from flying business class to New York and London to out in Lancashire, changing incontinence pads and emptying catheters. And I was the care team. I was the home care. I was the care coordinator. I was the on-call. I was everything. A typical startup. I'm sure there's plenty of people here that have been through that phase, you know. So we then went from that sector, and I was quite lucky because my brother's an accountant. So he dealt with all the finance stuff. I dealt with all the operations and the business development. And we went from a complete startup to 7 branches, contracting with 10 local authorities, employing about 650 staff. And we did that in 3.5 years. And then in the 4th year, we exited and we sold to a PLC. And we did that expansion through a mix of taking over failing businesses, the old-fashioned way of just writing a tender and opening a new office in a new area with a tender and starting from scratch, you know, with no clients and no carers, and just being successful on a tender, on buying businesses and on mergers. So we did a little bit of everything to grow to get to that stage. And we made a lot of mistakes as well. I mean, one of the kind of sales pitches I do when I'm doing a sales pitch for the consultancy side is, I've made all these mistakes so you don't have to. You know, I've spent 20 odd years making a lot of mistakes and still make them today. We sold that, and then I spun out when we sold the business. Oh, we also had 2 nursing homes as well. So we had 97 nursing beds across 2 sites. We sold the home care business, exited that completely. That went to a PLC, and I spun out the training wing that we had. The acquirer didn't want that because he had his own training company. We spun that out into a training company, and then I got some government funding, and we started delivering. Back then, this is a long time ago, so this is back in the Train to Gain days, if anybody can remember that, when, you know, we got funded for MVQs, and we were delivering MVQs to just in the northwest, because I'm Manchester based, and we basically delivered to most of the providers, kind of major providers. It was Southern Cross, Four Seasons, Lifeways, Alternative Futures, so across a whole branch, but only in the northwest. And then I ended up doing some work for Staffordshire County Council and setting up their home care business, their internal home care business, or rather, it operates as a lot of councils seem to be following this model, a standalone company that is a commercial company that operates, makes a profit, and has to operate on commercial, gets the same money that all the other providers get, but the shareholders, the council. So I set that up for Staffordshire County Council. It's called Nexus Care. And it was a discharge to assess model. So we set it up as a discharge to assess, and then it became a provider of last resort. So anybody that had any problems, Staffordshire had control of a business that it could use as an emergency provider of last resort. And as I set that up, my training company kind of morphed into the consultancy, kind of by accident, really, because it became apparent that there was lots of people out there who are ex-CQC inspectors or ex-regional managers or commissioners, all working as consultants. Not many people had actually bought and sold businesses and built them up and had it from that side and done it from scratch, like many of you have. Literally got their hands dirty, Not many people have done that, and that's where I found myself in this position today, where we're now working with all sorts of, from, let's say, huge groups, with local authorities down to individual operators and investors. And we specialize in turnarounds, and if we get somebody ringing up because CQC is just giving them inadequate across all 5 domains, we can drop in and turn that round, and we have done. We've got quite a good success rate on that. In fact, we've got a very good success rate on it of turnarounds. What I would say, and that is just a sideline, is never let it get that far, because it costs a fortune to turn a business around. And I'll come on to this later when we're talking about the business. Build in your external quality, build in your having somebody else to come and look at your business, because if you let it get to the stage where it falls over, you've got to have deep pockets to turn that round. It's very, very expensive. I'll come back to that later anyway. We also do exits for people who want to exit their business, find the business not really worth as much as they thought it was. We can work with them and help it, turn it around and exit the business so they can retire. That's how I acquired my last 2 businesses, and I'm acquiring the 3rd one as well based on that model. So that's it really. That's what I do. I about 2 years ago, in fact, it was just before COVID hit, I decided I want to get back into it again as a provider. Most people think I must have been crazy, but I did actually miss it. You know, I missed working with teams and building teams up. I also saw there's a lot of really poor quality happening as well, and the market is still very fragmented. I'm just going to talk about home care now because this is what I'm actively involved in. So I'll just talk about, this will be quite a home care heavy. You know, I know a lot of you got residential, and we work with residential, but my own experience right now is domiciliary care. So that's kind of what I'll talk about a little bit. What the domiciliary care market in the UK, not in the UK, just in England alone, the domiciliary care market and supported living together is worth about £7.5 billion. And people don't realise it's that big. And of that 7.5 billion, 80%, I think Dudley mentioned this, 80% is delivered by independent private sector companies, right? 80% of that 7.5 billion. Of that 7.5 billion, less than 3 billion is supported living. So supported living is actually quite small compared to, I mean, it's still £3 billion market, it's still huge, but compared to dom care, it's tiny. So dom care is just short of 5 billion, you know, £5 billion market, just in England. That's not Scotland and not Wales, just England, 5 billion. So it's a big market. It's also fragmented. Of the providers that exist, it's only about 15% of the market is covered by the large nationals. So I'm talking about City and County, Sarah Care, and then the franchises, you know, the Home Insteads, the Bluebirds of this world. You all know who they are. You can list out. There's about 20 of them, and then that's it. There's very little mid-market, and then there's lots and lots of small. When I say small, as in one branch, you know, owner-operated people at the other end. There's actually not a great deal happening in the middle. I thought there'd be a lot more fragmentation earlier on, which is why I sold when I did, but it hasn't happened. I'm beginning to see it happen now. For the first time, I am beginning to see that consolidation. So if you're thinking of, and I'll come onto this a little bit more later on, if you're thinking of growing, now's a good time to either go into partnership, do some kind of partnership deal, or buy another business or start another branch. It's a really good time to do that. Conversely, if you're thinking of exiting, now's a good time to start thinking about it, because there's a lot of change going on. I did say this is quite dom care heavy because that's my, you know, what I'm personally going through now. I am talking about general business because I've been asked to come here to talk about the kind of business side of things. So I'll be talking about lots of ordinary business concepts which apply to whether you're residential, whether you're nursing, whether you're supported living, whether you're a charity. No matter what you are, there are standard business concepts, but I'm just going to talk about those concepts within domiciliary care because I can give you exact examples. But for example, recruitment marketing is exactly the same across everybody. You know, it's marketing to the private sector to get private clients in is the same whether you're residential or whether you're valuing your business, knowing your numbers. All these kind of things are exactly the same. So that's where we're at. There's a lot of opportunity, an awful lot of opportunity. So the main thing that I see, and this is from what I see when I'm hanging around on the forums on Facebook, and when people ask me, and when I get talking to clients or potential clients, is you have to treat it as a business. And that's, I would say, the biggest, not weakness, but the biggest opportunity that people within social care who are running social care organizations, and this includes charities, because charities have to run as businesses as well. They have to make a surplus. They don't call it a profit, they call it a surplus. That's about the only difference. It still has to be money left over when the costs of when they've paid all the bills. I would say that the biggest issue I see, the biggest opportunity, is people come into care because they want generally two things. They want to work in a caring sector. That's why I did it. I packed in banking because I hated it and I wanted something that came from the heart and felt right, you know, and gave me some kind of, and I'm sure that's pretty much true for pretty much everyone coming into the care sector. And the second major thing is freedom, you know, so it might be people coming from a social care background who've either worked for somebody else or worked in the NHS or worked in social care and wants the freedom to work for themselves. And then the third is money, but that generally comes quite far down the line. You know, you can make a lot of money in this business, a lot, but that's generally not the prime driver. And I would suggest that it should not be the prime driver. The prime driver for me was always, I wanted to do something worthwhile. You know, I wanted to make a difference to people, but I wanted to do it in a way that I wasn't going to go bankrupt at the same time. Conversely, I ended up making a bit of money out of it. And if you drive that, you can do it. But then the key part then is, because you've got people in social care coming in from a social care background, you've got to understand there is a general lack of understanding of commerciality. And when I mean commerciality, I'm not just talking about numbers. I'm talking about marketing. I'm talking about branding. I'm talking about positioning your business. I'm talking about people finding your business. I'm talking about understanding your KPIs, financial KPIs. I'm talking about, and it does come onto finance, is I've lost count of the number of clients, almost all my clients, who have no idea from a week to week what their income is going to be. You know, no cash flow forecasts, no immediate thing of knowing where the cash is coming from. Most small businesses have a habit of working on what cash is in the bank. So, oh, I've got enough cash in the bank, I can pay my staff, I can pay my bills. And there's no real forethought, or they just leave it to their accountant and their bookkeeper. What I would suggest is anybody in the care sector needs to realize you are running a business. And that's just a fact. You know, if you don't want to run a business, or you say, oh, I'm not interested in the money, give up and go and work for somebody. Because you are, if you're a limited company and you're a director at Companies House, you've got fiduciary responsibilities as a director under law. So you are legally responsible for that business. So just as you are legally responsible under the Care Act, you're legally responsible under CQC regulations, you're also legally responsible for the performance of your business as a commercial entity. So you have to learn about that. And again, if we say people want, you know, if we look at starting in dom care, I get a lot of people saying, or I see it on forums when people say, I've started my dom care, I've got registered, I'm now a registered manager, I've got my business, where do I get my clients from? And my reaction is always thinking, why have you started a business without doing any market research? Why are you waiting until now to ask that? Because getting registered with CQC is actually the easiest part. CQC tell you how to get registered. You can go on their website, download all the pamphlets, all the regulations, all the information is there. It's almost like a handbook of how to run a business, you know, no matter what regulated business you're running, whether it's supported living, whether it's residential, whether it's nursing care, whether it's specialist drug and alcohol dependency. It can be very niche and very specialist. The fact is CQC gives you the manual, you know, it's on there somewhere. Not always the easiest to find, but you can ring them up and ask them, they point you in the right direction. There's always regulations. You've got to know the regulations. You pass the thing, that is easy. But you really have to know your market. So I've had, for example, people say to me, I've just bought a house and I want to start supported living and I'm registered with CQC. How do I now fill my house? And I say, well, have you spoken to local authority? I don't know. No, I don't know. Who do I contact? That should be the very first thing you do, because in supported living, in home care, remember what I said, it was a 7 billion pound market in total, 5 billion for home care. Of that, and I think I Dudley mentioned this, about 75% is funded, 30% of that 5 billion is funded by private payers. So 30% of 5 billion, that's your market of private, non-local authority funded. So it's big, yeah? There's billions of pounds worth of business out there. Yet people have never done the research. They don't do the research to, does my local authority have a framework that's open? How do I get on a framework? How do I look at that framework and find out if I can provide? You know, you've got to do the research. You have to do, it could be, I've had people come to me where they're in a local authority, they've opened up a branch, and they're in an area which is, the framework's not open. Yet literally next door, there's a framework open. And we're talking about, there's one in particular where, this wasn't in London, this was in Birmingham, where their office was right on the border of the next local authority. So actually, the next local authority had an open framework, and it was literally 30 meters across the border. So I just said, well, open your framework there. Yeah. Now they were lucky. If you're planning to look at this, it might not be. You don't have to open in an area where you live. It could be look around, and if you're living in London, look at all the London boroughs and look outside the London boroughs as well. If you're on the edge of London, look at all the home counties around it and find out who's got an open framework. Where can you get to? It doesn't have to necessarily be in your backyard. You know, you've got to decide what you're prepared to do on a commute. It might be half an hour. You know, London's it's a big place with lots of local authorities. It's a very dense population, so you can, you know, go half an hour and cross 2 local authority boundaries. You know, it could be that you open branches elsewhere. You know, look at who is open. Do your research. What I've also noticed about local authority, and I'm talking about local authority commissioning here. Local authority commissioning, it shouldn't, but it is. It shouldn't be driven by cost, right? They have a statutory duty to provide care for the people within their local authority. So if people need care, the local authority should provide it. The fact is, we all know that it's not. It is driven by cost. So they will ration care, and they will put obstacles in the way of people to commission that, to access that care, because they haven't got any money. I don't know if you noticed it. I don't know if in your areas. I certainly noticed it in a couple of the areas I worked in, where the amount of referrals coming in from our local authority plummeted in February, and February and March, practically no referral. And this was, they were just not putting out to anybody. Now, I've seen this before. It's because they've run out of money and they're waiting for the new budget. And I said to my staff, just hang on, April, you're going to see a big uptick. And sure enough, April, new budget time, bang, it just came back up again. They're not actually allowed to do that, but they do. They'll find ways around it. The good thing about local authorities as well is everything has to be public, because it's a public body. Now, they don't always make things. And one hack you can do is you learn how to use Google and learn how to use stuff. You can find the minutes for almost any local authority meeting that's happened. You can also find contact details, by the way, of commissioners and heads of commission that are not on the website, by digging down on a local authority website, hunting out minutes of meetings. You have to kind of know search terms and stuff, and they don't make it very easy to find, but it is found because it is public money, public information, because it's a public body. You can tend to find local authority minutes and meetings and find out what's going on. You know, you can find out what their strategies are. You can find out what they're planning to do, because the minutes are all published on the website. They're very hard to find, but you can do it by, and this is another thing that I'll come across, is learning business skills. And I'll start talking about this time by time. You have to educate yourself in the gaps that you don't have knowledge in. So if you're from a care background and you know all about regulations, but you don't know anything about how to use Google and how to effectively use Google, teach yourself. Yeah, that is, you're all running small businesses. You have to know these things. You have to know about how to use marketing, and I'll come on to all this in a second. So that's looking at the local authority. You've got to look at your local authority. And what I suggest to people is just get a spreadsheet. Yeah, there's another business skill. Get used to using spreadsheets. Get used to researching as a skill set in its own right. You do not need to pay consultants like me. You do not need, when you're setting up a business, or even if you're having a hard time, it's very easy to fall prey to lots of salespeople that will promise you the earth. Buy our policies and procedures and you will run your business really easy. Buy our computer system and it will make your life super easy. The fact is, you don't need to spend any money initially at all. Do all your own research as much as you can, so that when it comes to making a decision about it, you're making it from a point of strength and knowledge. So, for example, if you're buying a IT system to run your dom care business, or a care planning system to run your nursing home, or a clocking on and off system, you know, do your research, go out and spread it, ask questions, and go out there. I've noticed that there's a lot of people who Facebook seems to be the preferred social media platform for an awful lot of small business owners and registered managers. And very few, and I say, well, are you on LinkedIn? No. Well, then you should be, you know, or they'll say, oh, I don't do LinkedIn. Well, you should be doing, because you should never say, I don't do something. because you're running a business. You need to educate yourself, and it's fantastic the amount of information that is on social media and it's out there that you can educate yourself from absolute experts. So I'm using LinkedIn at the moment to learn about artificial intelligence and AI. Yeah. So I don't know if you've heard, but there's a thing called ChatGTP, which is the artificial intelligence writing solution. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Here's one of the things that I've managed to do is I've got a big project at the moment doing about 30 mock CQC inspections. So I've got my inspectors going in, doing mock inspections for a large client. We're running, when they send me back their reports that they've got, and we structure our reports similar to CQC, but not exactly the same. We have all the observations down one side, then recommendations what we should do down the other. And it might run into 15 or 20 pages of observations and recommendations. I put that into ChatGTP and ask ChatGTP to create a summary for me, executive summary, with an action plan, and it spits it out in seconds. So it now gets a 200-word executive summary with an actual action plan in an Excel format that it's created for me. And it's stunning. Now, I'm just using that as an example of how I'm using this latest technology. And the purpose here isn't saying you've got to go learn how to use ChatGTP. My point is you've got to learn how to start educating yourself constantly. You know, I've been doing this, you know, big part of my pitch to you is I've been doing this for 23 years. I'm also learning. So I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and I'm on Twitter, finding people who are experts in ChatGTP to teach myself so I understand how to apply it to my business. And it's revolutionized what I can do for my clients just on that sector. So at the moment, what I'm doing now is I'm redoing all my policies and procedures of business I've done, and I'm running it through ChatGTP. And I asked ChatGTP, what do you know about CQC regulations? And it came back with an answer for me, and it knows the CQC regulations really well. So that was pretty good. It listed them all out. I then said, okay, I'm now starting to run my staff employment manual through ChatGTP, and I'm asking it, ChatGTP, to point out which parts of the staff employment manual relate to which CQC regulation. And it's done it just like that. So these are stuff you can do really easily. And suddenly I'm out of a job. You don't need to go to Peninsula. You don't need to go to Citation. You don't need to go to expensive consultants like me. You can do this stuff instantly. And that's what I'm messing around with. So that's an idea, you know, that's just an example of educating yourself with what's going on because you run a business. So going back to, so I do tend to go up a bit like, you know, one of Billy Connolly's stories where I go off on tangents all over the place. So I do apologize for that. Bringing it back in again, looking at the local authority, educate yourself about the local authority, find out what it is they are after. They should have a position statement. They're required to have a market statement. That'll tell you what they're after. Look at your competitors. My personal opinion is it's too easy to get regulated by CQC, to be quite honest. I think it's far too easy, certainly in domiciliary care, because residential care is almost, it has a limit, a self-selecting limit, in the fact that to buy a nursing home, you need cash, a lot of cash. You know, you need £1 million or something. You know, if you want to buy a 30-bed nursing home, you need a couple of £1 million. So that knocks a lot of people out of the game at the start. With dom care, you don't actually need any money. You just need to pass CQC regulation. So you get an awful lot of people starting in dom care with no idea about the market, no idea about what their costs are, no idea about how they're going to survive if the local authority pays them late, which local authorities are you know, often do. You know, they're bureaucratic. They won't do it out of meanness, but they are bureaucratic nightmares. And all it takes is one administrator to be off on holiday and they've not reallocated their work to somebody else, and suddenly, you know, half the providers are not getting paid. How are you going to survive on that? How are you going to pay your staff? How are you going to pay the bills? You need to know about this stuff beforehand. Yeah. And again, you don't have to pay your own. You can learn. This comes back to learning how to learn. Learning how to research. Social media is amazing. YouTube has instructions for everything. Absolutely everything. You can find LinkedIn and YouTube, and Twitter, if you know how to use it right, will provide you with so much information of how to run a business from experts out there. And people get their knowledge completely free of charge. It's just out there. It's actually a form of marketing, and I'll come on to that in a second. But there's so much knowledge out there that you can access completely free of charge to level yourself up as a business owner. And that's the key. You are a business owner. So I'll come back to it now. You're talking about I've been talking a lot about the local authority, the area in which you're in. Now I'm talking to a London care group here. London is unique. Most people say to me that, oh, this is, my area is different. I can't recruit. And I said, recruiting is not a problem. You just got to know how to do it right. So, oh, not in my area, it's different. I said, no area is different in the UK. You know, you've got rural areas and urban areas. You know, London is different from the rest of the UK, but in a positive way. You've got a far more diverse workforce than anywhere else in the UK. It's massively concentrated. And also, it's one of the wealthiest cities in the world. You know, it's hugely wealthy. And the private market, no matter where you are, and look, I did this as an exercise, as an argument with somebody. You could be in quite a poor area of London working for local authorities, stick a pin in your office and draw a 5-mile radius around your office, you will hit a rich area. That's just a fact, yeah, because of the way that London, so the private market is accessible to everybody. You just got to know how to access it. And that, again, is coming down to people to research, you know. So this comes on to another demographic research. All this is free. Get onto the Office of National Statistics, the ONS website. The government website tells you about statistics. That will give you population demographics. It will give you income demographics. It will give you everything there is to know about the demographics in your area. And you can even run it down to ward level. So your council ward, so you can pick your council, go down to the wards, and you can find out where the rich areas are, the poor areas are, where the elderly people live, where the young people live. So recruitment, for example, I ran one, you know, most of the care sector is mainly female workforce, yeah, of generally kind of middle age and above mostly. So I wanted to change that. I still wanted a female workforce, but I wanted younger women to come into it. So I did a demographic analysis from the information I got from the ONS. And I did a house, this is in Plymouth, where my business is. I did analysis of house prices and houses containing females between the ages of 18 and 30. And I could actually get that down. So that meant then I discounted, because in care you tend to recruit people from the lower income area. I discounted the high prices, and then that took me the lower house prices and the higher rented area with females of a certain amount, and that's the area I targeted for my recruitment, with flyers, with notices up on the shops roundabout, with even on Indeed. You can actually, there's a few hacks you can do on Indeed when you're doing stuff to, don't put your office in there, pick a random postcode somewhere in the area you want to do. It just means it flags it up in those areas. Write your adverts the way that will appeal to the people that you're actually trying to get on board. I'll come on to that in a second in marketing. So that's an example of demographic analysis. Yeah. So and I learned that the hard way. I started in my first business in rural Lancashire with a population density of 52 people plus. I can even remember it now, and it's 23 years ago. A population density of 23 people per square kilometre. There were 52,000 people in total, and there were 80,000 sheep. So there are literally more sheep than there were people where I started. It was also a very affluent area. So I had nobody lived there. The people that lived there were rich, and it was full employment, right? Absolute nightmare to start a domiciliary care business. So I really did learn the hard way. However, when I moved into urban areas, let's say in Manchester, where I ended up opening one of the offices, in Salford, which is a city adjacent to Manchester, the population density there, remember in Lancashire, it was 52 people per square kilometre. In Salford, it was 3,000 people per square kilometre. Not only that, I did demographic analysis to find out where the bulk of the elderly people lived, and then really focused in on there. And we ended up with about 500 hours a week that we did just in 2 blocks of flats. So I didn't need a car driver. I could have walkers that just go in and work up and down the flats. Yeah. And that's just an example of using demographic analysis. So you really understand the area you're in. So I've looked at the local authority, looked at really getting to know about your local authority, really look at the demographics of where you are. And it might actually mean that you go to the next borough or one of the adjacent boroughs. What we also look at is two other areas, or three other areas to market to. You've got your private sector, and then there's two others that people don't realise, and that is commissioners who are almost like third-party commissioners. And not many people really focus on this. And if you were in any of the areas I was operating in, I wouldn't tell you about this because I wouldn't, it's pretty limited. I want to keep it to myself. You have lawyers, and you have lawyers who have powers of attorney. So somebody might have, you'll all come across powers of attorney, obviously, because you'll have family members who've got powers of attorney, but there are lawyers out there that specialize in it, and they will be advising their clients on powers of attorney for their family, but they might also be have power of attorney as well on a client who doesn't have family, or where the estate is paying the lawyer. These are people you need to network with. These are people you need to get to know. These are people you need to market with. We've currently got 5 private clients that have all come from one lawyer, and we've developed a relationship with that lawyer, and we've ended up with 5 clients out of it. And that is just because that lawyer has to go with somebody. The others are case managers. Case managers is a branch of there may be some case managers on this call actually. Case managers are a branch of care provision that doesn't really, kind of flies under the radar a little bit. When you've got complex cases, usually as a result of personal injury or industrial injury, and a settlement has been made in the courts, usually from an insurance company, because of an award to look at. So I'll give an example. I had a client many years ago who was a builder. He was on his cement mixer on a building site. He jumped off the cement mixer. He fell wrong and he ended up as a paraplegic. He then sued his own company for the insurance, and then the payout was several millions. But that was based on a quantitative assessment of what his care needs would be for the rest of his life. So it included building a house, it included a minibus that was adapted for his wheelchair, it included the wheelchair, and it included 24 hours of care with a team of carers for the rest of his life. The people that put that assessment, because it's millions and millions of pounds, the people that put that together are called case managers. And they're generally social workers with a background in complex assessments, and they will assess it for the personal injury lawyer. They'll provide the costings to the personal injury lawyer. The lawyer will go to the court with those costings. They'll argue that this is what it's costing, and then the case manager will manage that case on behalf of the lawyer and the service user, because it's quite complex. You're also going to generally involve dealing with care workers, dealing with occupational therapists, dealing with a whole range of support for that person for the rest of their lives. So it's run by, and there are case management companies everywhere. Now, a lot of case management companies have their own team of carers, but not always. They also need to use external, because you might have a case management company located where I'm in Manchester, but has a client in London. They don't have any carers to go into London, so they'll outsource that to you. So you need to start, this is where you're getting a bit more like marketing and networking now. So there's 2 lots of people there, in addition to local authorities, 2 lots of other people, of case managers and lawyers who specialize in personal injury, that you need to be marketing to. You're beginning to open up your market now. Instead of just thinking just about local authority, you're now opening this up. When I say local authority, by the way, I'm also talking about CHC, I'm talking about NHS, public sector, I should say, public sector commissioning. You're beginning to open this market up, and they're a little bit easier to deal with, these guys, than just individuals, because and I'll come on to why individual marketing is quite hard. You should create a spreadsheet, very, very simple spreadsheet if you can use a CRM system, customer relationship management system, it's easier. There's a lot out there. Just, again, teach yourself about CRM systems. There's lots of homework to do off this presentation. Teach yourself how to do stuff. Teach yourself about CRM systems. There's plenty out there which are free, completely free of charge. A CRM system is a commercial system used for managing sales and managing sales and marketing activity. So it's managing the relationship of your customers and potential customers. So you put leads in there. So you could do some research, find all the lawyers around your area who have got specialisms in private client and powers of attorney, get their names, go onto their website, find out where they are, find their LinkedIn profiles, put them in your CRM system. Go out there, start Googling case managers, find all the case managers that operate in your area, get onto their website, find out who they are, go onto LinkedIn, put all that information in. And you'll develop a list of probably 200 or 300 contacts. You can then start marketing to them. And I'll come on to marketing later. But that's one list. Then the next one is private clients directly. How do you actually find private clients? Nobody owes you a living. The local authority doesn't owe you a living. Nobody owes you a living at all. You've got to fight for it. You've got to put yourself out there. So and in that respect, you're no different to any other business in your area, in the fact that people have got to be able to find you. They have to like what they see, and they have to be able to contact you, and have to like what they hear and like you. People buy people. Yeah. Have a look at the websites of all your competitors, but also the national ones, and think, does my website look good? Does it tell people what I do or what I'm about? And when I say what you do, I'm not talking about we do social care, we do sittings, we do company into the shops, not your services, because people don't buy that. What are people actually buying? They're buying freedom. They're buying safety. They're buying peace of mind. They're buying, that's what people are really buying. Yeah, they're not buying a sitting service. They're not buying the bells and whistles. You know, there's an old sales phrase that says, sell the sizzle, not the steak. Yeah, you're not selling the actual service. Does your website look like it's been built in the 1980s? Yeah, does it look like it? That's your window on the world. Yeah, so if your website looks cheap and nasty, and be critical. This is the thing, you've got to be super critical about yourself. Don't ask your friends, because they'll tell you you're great. Yeah, ask somebody completely independent. Say, what do you think of the website? Yeah, what do you got to be honest with yourself here and think, yeah, my website looks a bit ropey, to be quite honest. Then the other thing is what their experience is, because what's happening now is, before I was talking about local authorities and case managers and lawyers, you're marketing to them. You might be, for local authority, you have to do a tender. This is a completely different way of marketing. This is consumer marketing. So what I've just been talking about is called business to business marketing. That's when you as a business is marketing and contacting another business. That other business might be a local authority, it might be the NHS, it might be a lawyer, it might be a case manager, but it's business to business. Business to consumer marketing is when you're trying to attract a person. And that's a lot harder. It's also a lot more expensive. It's also why you have justification in charging, and you should be doing this, because again, I come across people who are charging the same for private clients as they are for local authority. And when I ask them why, they say, well, I don't feel like ripping people off. Well, you're not ripping people off. If you've got, say, 500 or 1,000 hours or 200 hours of local authority work, you're sending in one bill. You're sending in one, you're dealing with one organization. So the administration for all those clients is tiny compared to the size of the invoices you're putting into a local authority. If you're putting 500 hours of invoicing, you know, each week or every 4 weeks, whenever you do it, it's the same amount of effort as sending one invoice to one person, right? So it's cheaper. It's cheaper to run a local authority, and you haven't had to spend any marketing. You filled in a tender. You might have paid a tender expert to write $3,000 for you for a tender or whatever, for £1 million of the business that ends up. But that's it. You've not had to market yourself. Business consumer marketing, you are going to have to spend money to make your website look good, to make your Facebook look good, to make your branding look good, to get yourself seen in terms of Facebook campaigns, in Google pay-per-click campaigns. It costs money to get yourself out there. Once you're out there, you know, people then have to, like I say, have to like you and have to like the message. So once you're actually spending that money, you know, you need to charge to cope with that. Once you've actually got a private client, it also costs more to administer, because I mean, literally after this now, I'm actually sending out all my private client invoices. And I've got to sit here and spend my time going through it, you know, creating the invoices. I've automated it as much as I can, creating the invoices and then sending them out to each client. And then I've got to chase for the money. So there's a lot of effort involved in managing private clients. That is why private client invoices should be a lot higher than local authority. You know, so if you're on the same par of the local authority private, stick your private clients right up. There's also a marketing thing about this, about the assumption people make, and this is psychological, about pricing. You know, people see something that is high priced and immediately assume that it's better value, that it's a better product because it costs more. You know, a Rolex does exactly the same job as a Timex, exactly the same job, but there's about 10,000 quid difference. Yeah, and it's the perception of value, and that perception of value is a human psychology. Now I'm going to come on to the next thing that you need to educate yourself on, and this is two things that I'd say the most important things to educate yourself on if you're running a care business: finance, basic cash flow, basic P&L stuff, and sales and marketing. And again, you can teach yourself. There are so many books, so many YouTube channels. I could probably send Peter or Dudley a list of books that I've read, you know, over the last couple of years that have really helped me out. I use Audible, which is the Amazon subscription. So when I'm driving around, I'm listening to books on how to sell, on how to market, on how to present myself, on how to write copy. A lot of these things I don't do myself, but it allows me to make informed decisions when I'm outsourcing. So when I'm outsourcing something, so if I'm choosing a marketing company, if I'm choosing a web designer, if I'm choosing a copywriter to write my things, I'm doing it from a point of strength because I understand the concepts, because I've read the book on it. I can't do it myself, but it's a big difference when I'm outsourcing in that conversation, because I know what I want. I know what, so I'm not at the mercy of the potential supplier telling me what they can do. I'm telling them what I want them to do. That's a big difference. And that's because I'm educating myself about it. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff that I'm telling you isn't about you doing it yourself, quite the opposite. It's about learning so that you're in a position of power when it comes to making those decisions about things. Where was I at? Lost my thread a little bit there. Yeah, so you're on to business consumer marketing. What's this? I need to move to 55. Okay. I told Dudley when I started this that I can talk forever on this kind of subject. So I'm going to bring that to a close now, because the thing I'd say is educate. There is resources everywhere to learn. Educating doesn't mean you have to do it yourself. It means being knowledgeable. Open your mind. Never say, I don't do LinkedIn. I don't do this. Open the mind. You are a business. Learn how to do cash flows. Learn how to do how your P&L works. Learn how your monthly management accounts work. Learn about sales. Learn about marketing. You're a business. And on that note, I will throw it open and say, any questions and answers, or over to Peter.
Thanks, Simon. There's a huge amount of information there, and I have to say I've done many of those things myself. The happy hours I've spent hunting through local authority websites, and if you can't find stuff on a local authority website, just contact their Freedom of Information officer and say, how do I find this? Because often they will then give you the link without you having to go to the whole faff of getting an FOI. And some local authority websites are better than others. Some of them are absolutely appalling, but fire away. You must have some questions for Simon.
No, I've bored everyone to death.
No, there's at least one. There's a hand up. I see from Jean's got a hand up.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, thank you so much, Simon. That was very helpful information. I appreciate that from my end. There's a lot to do, and also, you know, self-reflection will help with the information that you've just shared. My question to you really is just to see how I can help myself. You know how you've spoken about the website and you know how you show up and stuff like that. So I've been going to the back end of my website, and I've seen that I'm attracting about 800 and something people on the website each month. But it's about the conversion rate. How do you get those people to become your clients, if you've got any advice on that, because it's something that has been worrying me for a while. I know people are visiting on the website and we get like trickles coming in, but the conversion now is the question that I have.
I don't know how to do it. I outsource it. That's the key thing. Is you can't, you know, you're running a care business. You can't suddenly educate yourself to become a digital marketeer. You've just got to know roughly what to do. So in your respect, also, there's something, and this again is what I've learned from sales and marketing and teaching myself, is I think on average, it takes 7 points of contact before somebody makes a decision even to contact you. So they'll contact your website. They will also look at your social media profile. So is your social media profiles working? Are your social media profiles working for you? Is your Facebook, for example, for the company, a genuine reflection of what you do? Here's a definite thing you should do. Never put job adverts on your company page if you're recruiting for staff. Showcase it. And you should be putting content out there every single day. Yeah. So every day you're posting, like you're doing your photographs of smiley people on induction. Congratulations. Find out some. We've got one client who, a lad with learning disabilities, who we've had to, we'd turn it into his Facebook page if he could have it. Yeah, he loves it. He loves being on the Facebook page. So we've got him doing loads of stuff and he's happy and smiley. And this works really well for us. Works well on recruitment as well. It's that showcase. What's your Twitter like? What's your Instagram like? What's your TikTok like? You can get tools, by the way, to schedule all these. So you could spend half a day scheduling a month's worth of posts, press a button, and your next month is sorted. It's posts automatically for a month. Yeah, so there's tools like Hootsuite, and I use Meet Edgar. I use Meet Edgar, and other people use Hootsuite. They are scheduling things. So quite often when a social media company comes to you and says, we'll do your social media for you, really they're just sticking it into Hootsuite, and they'll spend 2 hours building it all up and automating it. You can do that yourself. But sorry,
there's a number of things I think with websites. If you're using your website as a prime source of marketing to get referrals, make sure that it works on a phone, because if you look at a lot of websites, they don't work on phones or tablets. And really simple things like make sure it's spelt correctly, that it's actually easy to contact you, that somebody answers the phone
that was my next point.
when they ring through. And if you look at as many social care websites as I'm sure Simon has as well, you see the same photographs ripped off from other people's websites. Make it stand out, and change stuff. And if you're going to have layers and layers of social media, you need to keep those up to date. If you can't add something to them daily, don't bother, don't have them. You keep it simple. And also say where you are. There's no point if you're in Bromley getting clients from Hammersmith that you can't manage. So go back to, managing people's expectations, and getting the referrals you actually want. And, some of the websites, not expensive, but they get a bit of advice from somebody that actually puts the website together for you. Some of them open up very slowly. The pages don't sit properly, basic stuff. And if you can't get that view of your business right, people aren't going to go to you, because they're going to think if they can't get the website right, they're not going to get their care right.
And it's the messages you put on that website. The website won't convert people. It's everything in a mix. Think of it as a good analogy that I was giving to. This is when I had an e-commerce company selling boxing equipment. Nothing to do with care, but it's how I learned how e-commerce works, business consumer marketing works. How I sell boxing gloves to a professional fighter, or how I send it to an 18-year-old girl who goes to David Lloyd to do boxercise. Very different proposition for the same product. Anyway, my web designer said, it's not, the website is not a single thing. Everything is, think of it as a cable with lots of little cables in it. And your website's one, your Facebook's one, the way you write your copy is one, how you appear is one, your brochure is one, and all these things together build up into this single entity. And this is where I say then educate yourself, is don't worry too much about how your website functions until you really understand what it is you're trying to get the website to do. So start teaching yourself about marketing. And again, follow people on LinkedIn who are good at this sort of stuff. You can start off following me on LinkedIn. I tend to post every single day, and I just give advice out every single day. And if you look at the people who follow me, start following them, and pretty soon you can build up quite a good network. And it's not just in the care sector. You know, I interact with a lot of care sector people on LinkedIn, but I also interact with copywriters, with salespeople, with web designers, with social media experts, and you can start building up that overall picture, you know, so that you can start educating yourself about it before rushing out and changing your website. You know, so you've got a real understanding of what it is you're trying to sell.
Yeah, and there's a point in the chat from Ali Wright about websites are very expensive to improve. One of the problems with websites is that people actually want to put their life history on there, and there's pages and pages and pages of stuff. You've got to get the message across really very succinctly on the front page. It's a bit like the headlines of a newspaper, and the average reading age in the UK is probably about 8 or 9. So the message has got to be simple. And if you've had your website put together by somebody who's actually any good, they won't be charging you a lot of money, and they will give you advice, and they will come back to you as your website grows and your needs change, so that you can add things or change things relatively simply. And if it's built in something like WordPress, then you can easily post stuff on there, and you can link it to other forms of social media, so that you can do, you know, one thing covers a number of angles.
Well, one thing that if you, how many people have update and regularly update, this is what I would say is more important than even a website, is how many people would update and have a Google My Business page and have up-to-date reviews on it and have 5-star reviews from their clients on Google My Business? Because if you don't, that's the easiest way to do it. If you Google, you know, you just mentioned Bromley, you know, care in Bromley, Google that, and it comes up with a map, and it will show you your care agencies in Bromley, and you'll see that they're ranked. Yeah, you want to be in that top, and it's free. This is free, and the way to get ranked in there is the same with any social media. Is make sure you've got reviews on it, make sure you've got people interacting on it, and make sure you update the content on it. And this is completely free, and it's on Google Maps, so that you want, when people type in looking for care for my mum in Bromley, bang, you're in that top 3 or 4. And if you've got reviews from your clients in there, also free, that is when they'll look at it and think, oh, they've got a 5-star. They've got 10 people that have given them 5-star reviews. I'm going to ring them. No website involved. Yeah. I actually had a client of mine just outside London who did that. She didn't have, she was doing about 150 hours a week. And she went straight up to 500 hours a week just from Google My Business, because she just smashed it. She went out and got every single client and every single relative and every single carer to do a review, you know, so all the reviews went up to, like, you know, 50 reviews, constant updating, and she's on the top of Google My Business. If you look for care in her area, she's always that one. People click on it, speak to her, talk to her, lovely person, makes a sale.
Just one point before we move on. Many local authorities have an information site, and they have lists of local care providers on there. Just make sure you're on there, because if anyone rings the local authority, and many people do, they'll say, oh, look at our website. There's a list on there. So if you're not on that list, you've missed an opportunity. Emma.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much, Simon, for your presentation. It's really good to hear about all your successes and how you've lived through the challenges of being in this sector. And still,
I've some real cock-ups as well. I just don't broadcast those.
No, but I think, I mean, and I think, you know, we really need to be honest about, though, but it's always a bit of a you know, it's a bit of a tension, isn't it, between how honest we are about those cock-ups and how sort of transparent we are, and, you know, with our duty of candor and our regulator and all of that. But at the same time, well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. This linked to my question. So you said about building in the quality and compliance, build it into the business.
Yeah.
So we used to have a compliance officer as part-time post, and we haven't now. And I've tried to disseminate the work that she was doing across the team, but the seniors in the team are too busy on the delivery. So I'm thinking we need to build it back in. But I mean, would you recommend that it is a I mean, we're a medium-sized business. We've got like 30 staff, 30 clients.
Okay, right. Yeah. No.
But would you have it as a job? And is that what the regulator, because they loved it when they came out, they really were, that they could see we're investing that in that week on week in a compliance officer. But now I'm thinking, is it more that we contract that out? And if so, where do we go? Sounds like you might be able to.
There's two different answers to that. The fact is you should be doing both, right? Your internal should be different from your external. So when I say build it in externally, I'm talking about a mock CQC inspection or a mock inspection from somebody who isn't in your business, because they will give you a genuine feedback. Yeah, there'll be no politics in it. There's no people too scared to tell you what the real issue is. There's none of that. Somebody will come in and they'll give it to you, warts and all. Yeah, so that's for you. Yeah, to look, and then you can then integrate that into your service improvement plan and you SIP, your ongoing kind of constant thing that you need to do. Yeah. However, your day-to-day stuff, whether you've got a full-time or a part-time, a dedicated compliance manager, or whether you do it yourself, or whether you do it with your seniors, that's really just an operational question, and it comes back to finance. The way I work is I know that I've got, in, let's say, for example, for 500 hours, I know I can afford 40 hours of overhead work, right, per week, overhead work. Now, that's overhead is, i.e., that's your spot checks, your compliance reviews, not kind of planning reviews. It's all your quality assurance stuff. Yeah. So I've worked out 40 hours. Now I've got a choice. I can either employ somebody for 40 hours, in which case I've got one person, or the way I prefer to do it is I split it up amongst my seniors and then I track what they're doing weekly. So I might have 4 people doing 10 hours each of overhead work. That way I've suddenly got 4 people. That means if somebody's off sick, I've got 3 others to pick up the work, or if somebody's on holiday, but I'm still doing 40 hours. So I've budgeted for that. Yeah. And as I get bigger, it'll turn to 80 hours. And then I'll have I'll have more people. And that way I've got my seniors. I know it's also flexible from week to week, which means that if we suddenly get a big, certainly a COVID time, loads of people go off sick in one go, they can just stop doing all the compliance and they can just get out and do visits. Yeah. And they're doing visit delivery. And then you pick it when people come back in, you can then go back and do more overhead work and less care work. So that's constantly up and down. So as the manager, you've got this resource where you're constantly going from week to week. So over the month, you're using you're not going bankrupt by using too much overhead. You're tracking the overhead, but it's not fixed to 1 week. You've got a lot of flexibility around that. You can also find out which of your seniors, if you push it down to that level, who's good at it, who's not good at it, who needs extra training, just like all your other stuff. That's the way I do it. Yeah. But there's no real right or wrong answer to that. You've got to do it. So how you do it, and then you as the manager, and I'm guessing you're the manager, the owner, you're there. You then do an audit of the auditors. Yeah. So you're making sure that you know what those guys are doing.
Yeah. I like the sound of that, and also I think it keeps like you say, the senior staff with the eye on the Chloes and things, because I think before, because we had such a brilliant compliance officer, so it was just like we had that reassurance that she was all over it and all the auditing and everything, and she would tell us how to bring our work in line with the Chloes and things. I'd be telling people, but since she's gone, I've just assumed that we'd all sort of pick it up and be working in line with the Chloes, but we're not.
No, but absolutely not. You've always got to mentor those guys that are working for you. Remember, these are senior carers. These are people coming up, and they'll have different levels of ability and knowledge and capability. And you'll see people who are real potential for the future, but just haven't got any knowledge because they're new to it. But they've got lots of potential. But if you get somebody external in, that's just a completely different thing. That is somebody giving you a warts and all. Here's your mock CQC inspection. you know, these are the things you need to sort out now. And if you've got a really good consultant, they should be also looking at wider things outside of the closing. Like, I suggest that you do this, I suggest you do that, and I'm working with you to create that suggestion, and you feed that into your constant, you know, your ongoing service improvement plan.
Yes, yeah. Have you got a list of sort of approved consultants for those kind of those mock inspections, or should we just come to
two ways of doing it? Well, I mean, that's what we do. It's one of the services we offer.
Yeah.
That wasn't a sales pitch, it's what we do. And there's two ways of doing it. You can go to a company like us, and there's others as well. Not as good as us, obviously, but you know, they exist. And there's local providers, local people to you who will be just independents, you know, who will be independent to you. And so yeah, if you wanted to know about that, contact us, because we do it. Or you might know people, you know, have a look around and see if there's independent people around.
Do you think ex-inspectors are a good person to go with?
They're all generally good. I mean, different people have got different strengths. So if you've got an ex-CQC inspector, they're obviously very good at the regulations, but they might not be that good at spotting HR issues. They might not be that good at spotting operational issues that I've just talked to you about then, about, you know, how to structure your business. They don't know anything about that. They're certainly not very good at marketing and business. You could get an ex-commissioner, and you'll get an ex-commissioner who's done it, who again is brilliant at understanding how to structure it from a compliance that the local authority are looking for, or from a contractual point of view, and you know what they'd be looking for. But they're not so good at, you know, understanding how to manage 30 people. You know, then you might have an ex, you know, so it just depends. Different people have got different, you're never going to get anybody that's got everything.
Sorry guys, I need to pull this to a halt. We've got 2 people to go and we're running out of time.
Thank you very much.
So I mean, by all means talk, you know, put your email address, you know, and contact Simon outside, and you know, best of luck with that. And Simon, again, many thanks. There's a huge amount of stuff there, and do let me have your contact details so we can circulate that with a bit of an intro, please.
I've just put my LinkedIn. I've put my LinkedIn address.
Okay.
So if you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn and follow me. And the reason is, I can then point you in the different directions of other people to follow, where I can't get over enough just what a fantastic resource LinkedIn and YouTube are for learning how to do things in business. It's all free. You know?
Right. Thank you very much. Emma Hammett, please. Ah, Emma, there you are. Hello.
Hello, hi. Gosh, I really enjoyed that.
Good.
What energy. And I'd also like to say that if you're looking for content to put out so that you've got regular content, we have a bucket load of really good, solid, how to help older people, first aid type content that you are more than welcome to share. It's not heavily branded, and it's just about first aid, care, accident prevention. A lot of it's taken, and this sounds like a plug, but it's not. A lot of it's taken from our book. We've got videos, we've got infographics, we've got things like how to help someone up following a fall. We've got things like how to get yourself up to following a fall, how to help yourself if you're having a heart attack. Just useful stuff that people enjoy reading and learning about, and that can add to your website. And on your business page, I loved what Simon was saying, but I was going to say as well, make sure you've got really good images on there too, because Google loves images. Make sure that you're not using sort of stock images, but you're using nice images that you've got of people within your care home and your care setting that are happy to be shared, so that those are on there. And make sure that you're, oh, sorry, I'm doing a bit of marketing because I love marketing too. Apologies, Simon. But make sure that when you're putting the images on there, that you've got them titled something, because they've got an alt tag behind, and that is what Google reads, because Google can't see images. So make sure you've got an appropriate image, so it's not, you know, lady with broken arm or whatever. It's you know, your care home or your care industry, and whatever you want to be promoting as part of the image name. Anyway, that wasn't what I was called in to come and speak about, so apologies, Peter.
No problem. Have you got any slides, or do you want to put any slides up? Or
I have got some slides that I'll run through very, very briefly, because I know you're tight for time. And what I can do another time, if you'd like me to, is I can come on and do some first aid stuff on anything specific, on reminders, defibs and
Okay.
all that sort of stuff, if that is the sort of thing that would be useful. Very happy to.
We'll see what
to
people
do that.
want, and if that's what they want, then we can go from there. But I mean, you're co-host, so either I can do the slides, or you can do the slides, or you'll have to do the slides anyway.
Okay, my slides aren't desperately exciting, and I'm not a lover of PowerPoint,
Okay.
but I will run through very briefly on my sort of brief on this, which is just your sort of first aid requirements. Make sure you've got them up to date, and this is what we can help you with. They are not exciting slides, so huge apologies on that. But if anyone wants a copy of the book, send me an email. I'm very happy to put one in the post to you, or you can buy them on Amazon, but I'm very happy to send you a free one. And we also have free resources on our sites. We've got ebooks that you can download with essential first aid requirements. And we've also got a specific site that is a social cause, which we fund. We created it with Esther Ranson, with her support, and with Age UK as well. And it's on the social prescribing list with the Royal College of General Practitioners. And again, that's somewhere that I'm very happy with you sharing from, if you want to just share content. And it's all about carers and older people and those caring for them. So you're most welcome to use that. Right, I will just go through this this screen. Where is my presentation? Which is here. Give me 2 seconds. Apologies. Here. Okay. Right, there we go. Can you see everything okay?
Yep.
Hold on, I just want to get it right. Here we go. So this is us. This is who we are. We are all medical health and emergency services professionals. My background's nursing. I trained at Thomas's a long time ago, but I've worked all over the place, including working as a home carer and working as a family carer. So I've seen it from both sides. I understand it from both sides. I know it can be very difficult. And it can be extremely challenging. So we will try and make sure that our training, if you choose us, is completely relevant to what you need, so we can do completely tailored training. So my team are all medical health and emergency services professionals. I've got 46 trainers across the UK, and we are based in Balham. So we run open courses from our training room in Balham as well. I'm just going to admit someone because they're on my screen. Okay, so basically you've got your legal requirement. I'm sure you're all aware of this, so just treat it as a reminder. So there is a legal requirement to have appropriate first aid training. Now that relates directly to your employees. So that is a legal requirement to ensure that you are making appropriate provision for those people that you employ. And that includes contractors as well. You have a duty of care to those using your service, and your first aid training needs to comply with your insurance specifications, the care certificate and the CQC. So yes, you will need first aid training, and for some of it depends. If you're running a care home, you'll need specific levels. If you're running an agency, you'll need possibly slightly different, but it will depend about your insurance cover, and everyone giving care should at the very least have basic life support training and basic first aid. So this is again what I've just said. You need to do a thorough risk assessment, and I know that makes everyone's eyes roll, but basically you do your risk assessment and your first aid provision should relate to these risks. So I know quite often risk assessments end up being a little bit of a tick box, and it ends up being a bit overwhelming, or maybe you love them. But your first aid provision should relate directly to your risk assessment and say, well, you know, if we have a risk of falling here, then how can we do to mitigate these risks? And also, what first aid would we need if that happens? So if you've got elderly people within your care, you've probably got an increased risk of them falling. And so the training should ensure that everybody would know what to do, and you should have protocols to back that up as well, so that everybody understands what they're supposed to do should this happen, and what first aid should be given. Is that all right? Okay. So always relevant, always appropriate, and regularly refreshed and updated. You also need to have the kit wherever you're working to ensure that they have what they need should they need to use it. And the kits should be easily accessible. They should be well signed so everyone knows where they are, and they should be age appropriate. They should be replenished. The number of times I've gone places and they say, well, yes, we've got the first aid kits, and you have a look inside and 60% of the contents have disappeared. So make sure that they are regularly replenished. If you're running a care home, you also need to decide what you're doing with AEDs. There is no legal requirement to have a defibrillator, and you also need to understand about ensuring that everyone knows about your DNA CPR orders and whether or not somebody is for resuscitation and how that is managed. So there again will be protocols that you will have that ensures that everybody understands how that should work. We've got a few different courses that we can do. We can do a bespoke course for you. So we could come to your care organisation and do a group. We can do this as a 3-hour course or a full day emergency first aid at work, which is their level 3 qualification, which a lot of carers are required. And certainly if you are running a care home, you will need people, a proportion of people with a level 3 emergency first aid at work qualification. So you can send individuals to our open courses in Balham if you would like to do that. And we also have online courses which are specific for the carers course. I'm very happy to offer discounts to your forum. So I've put on there, so we offer a 25% discount on the online course and a 10% to the practical courses. So we'll set up a code for that and let Peter know what that is. Basically we're here to help. You've also got your RIDDOR, which is your reporting requirement. You have to report injuries, specific injuries from your employees. But if people are sent to hospital as a result of the care that they have received, they also might be required for reporting purposes. And again, I can send through more information on RIDDOR if you would like me to do so. And you should also have some form of an accident report form or report book to record all incidents, and CQC will want to look at that when they do inspections. That's basically it. So you need to ensure that you've got appropriately trained staff. You give the right care when it's needed. Ensure that you brief the emergency services appropriately when they arrive. Well, actually, when you call them and when they arrive. When you call them, will allow them to decide on the priority that they give you. And once they arrive, don't assume that they know what has happened. They will need a briefing. And there's been so many incidents where somebody hasn't given that information, and that has led to someone dying who may not have done, because people just say, oh, the emergency services are here, fantastic, over to the paramedics. But they do need to understand the lead up to whatever happened, and fill in the necessary paperwork. So that was a very, very swift overview, and nothing like as exciting as Simon's presentation, which I loved. So if there are any questions, very happy to help. But as I know you're very tight for time today.
Many thanks, Emma. I mean, there ought to be questions, because I know from the number of first aid boxes that I have looked at when visiting that even to my untrained eye are not correct. And the number of staff that have said to me, we're not happy or confident with our training. And also from talking to CQC, who say, it's really simple stuff. Why can't providers get the basics right?
Yeah, I would agree. It's also life skills. So people sort of say, oh, first aid, but actually you can apply it to every aspect of your life. If we are doing our job and teaching you with an engaging, relevant, interesting course, then you should really enjoy learning it, and you should go out feeling empowered, both to help your family, your friends, and to have that skill at work. I mean, that's what we're about. It should be really interesting stuff to learn. And it's also critical and vital for you to have as part of your work.
Exactly. Questions for Emma, please? Can I believe they're all struck dumb?
I think they're all overwhelmed by Simon's presentation. Please feel free to share my details.
Yeah,
I'm very happy to take individual emails and questions and advice and support and anything that you might need from, you know.
Okay.
I can put you in touch with my distributor for buying a DFib if you want them, or just advise on what sort of training you might need.
Okay, I see there's a hand raised from Emma.
Another Emma. Hello, Emma.
Hello. I just wanted to check, should training in how to use a DFib form part of an emergency first aid at work for carers? Because I didn't quite get to the bottom of that before I ran the last set of courses, which have just finished. I included it in the end, but sort of legally, or should it include how to use the DFib to meet that threshold of emergency first aid?
Was it an emergency first aid at work you did?
It was a one-day emergency first aid at work for the care.
A full day level 3 qualification.
Yes, yeah.
It's on the syllabus.
It is, right. Okay.
Head and spinal injuries and asthma and anaphylaxis aren't on the syllabus. We always add them in, because what is the point of doing a course in a care home, or when we're doing the ones for sports as well, where you're not including head and spinal injuries when you're talking about people that are prone to falling. So, and people with breathing problems as well, you need to cover those. So we will cover the EFAW syllabus, which does include defibrillators, but we will also always include head and spinal injuries, asthma and anaphylaxis, and heart attacks, which again aren't part of the EFAW syllabus for some unknown reason.
Yes.
So yeah, we will always include those in. It takes about an extra half hour to make sure that we cover those and incorporate that within it. We don't charge any extra for it. We just include it because I believe it's important, and it goes back to relevance.
Yeah.
You need to learn those things, and there's no point in giving you a handout and saying, oh, here's this on head injuries. You need to learn and be able to ask.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm going to an email and I'll be in touch.
That's great. So you don't need, legally, you don't need to have a defibrillator, but AED training is part of the EFAW standard syllabus.
Good. We did include it, and then we went to buy a defib, and there's a supply issue with those. So a training defib, obviously. And so we're now paying £80 a month hire charge to hire a defib. Yeah, that's how much it is.
Let me put you in touch with my distributor, because they quite often have refurbished ones, which are cheaper, and obviously they're not dodgy. No one's going to sell you a dodgy defib. It just depends what they have. I don't take any kickback, but I work really closely with them, so I will literally just put you in touch with them, and they will tell you what they have, and that might instantly save you 80 quid a month.
Yeah, I know, it's adding up. It's been 2 months already.
Well, I mean, that seems extraordinary. And then people also try and sell you annual service charges and things. You really don't need those. You
No.
just need, it's got a 5-year battery. If it starts blinking, you need somebody responsible for checking that it's not making a strange noise and that it's blinking where it should be blinking, which is up here. And if it isn't, then it's the battery that's gone. And you also need to have somebody checking that the pads are in date.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so let them sell you a service package. Well, my distributors won't do that, but in terms of your rental, don't let them do that. That seems extraordinary.
Yeah, I'm going to email you. Thank you. I think you're going to help me save some money, and also just
very happy to do that, and just very happy to make sure that you fall back in love with first aid, because it's a really important skill.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Lovely to meet you.
Thanks. Any other points, or we'll move on to Laura from Skills for Care. Many thanks, Emma.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me along.
Emma, as well. So
no, that's lovely. Thank you.
Right, great. Laura, I'm keen that people look at some of these, because there's some very important stuff in these slides, and again, things that you need for your business and that you need to actually to go with.
Does that come up, Peter?
I've got it in front of me, yes. So if I'm sure other people can see Laura's slides.
Lovely. I'll make a start.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. Just a few quick updates of Skills for Care. And the first thing I was going to mention, I've spoken at previous meetings about how Skills for Care is involved in the development of a digital skills framework for adult social care. And this is going to be a kind of what good looks like framework for digital knowledge and skills. So it's going to outline what people working in care need to know and need to understand. So it may be helpful for you as managers when you're commissioning digital training for your staff, or perhaps doing audit of your staff digital skills to see where there may be gaps. So we're going to be launching the framework at an event next Tuesday. So I'll put the booking link in the chat in case that would be of interest to anybody. We're going to be running a really useful webinar next month, and that's going to be on succession planning, so how you can identify and develop future managers from within your service. We know from the data that we collect at Skills for Care, there's going to be a high number of managers who are going to be retiring over the next 10 to 15 years. So it's really important to start thinking now about how you can replace these managers and prevent some of that knowledge and those skills from being lost. So we'll be sharing information about development and funding opportunities available to support the growth of new managers, as well as how you can demonstrate your effective succession planning to the CQC. And again, I'll just stick the booking link in the chat. Oh, no, it's not letting me do that. I'll do that after I've spoken through my slides. A really good new resource that we've released recently. We funded the LGBT Foundation to develop a LGBTQ+ learning framework. And this sets out the knowledge, skills and values that care workers need to work with LGBTQ+ people in later life. That's in all types of care service. So as for digital skills framework, this can be used when developing and commissioning learning programs. You can maybe use it to run a session in a team meeting. And we just really hope it's going to be a tool that will help drive continuous improvement in the area of equality, diversity and inclusion, and just support staff to feel more confident. And I'll share the links, you can go and have a look at this in more detail. There's a lot in there, such as links to further resources and learning materials, which should be really helpful. So we've recently developed a handbook for nominated individuals. It's very comprehensive. I think it's over 100 pages long. And this just aims to provide practical advice about all aspects of the NI role. So legal responsibilities, promoting a positive workplace culture, kind of linked into Simon's presentation. There's a section on commercial awareness, understanding your business. It's really helpful, so please do pass the information on to your nominated individual. Final thing to mention is our London and South East Deputy Manager Network. And this works in a very similar way to today's Registered Manager Network. So it provides an opportunity to meet with other local managers, hear from external speakers, ask questions. And this network's aimed at deputy managers, team leaders, and assistant managers. So the network's been running for a couple of years now, and we always welcome new members. Next meeting is on the 24th of May, 10 o'clock to 12 via Zoom. And there's going to be a focus on learning and development. So we'll be talking about the importance of equipping your staff with the right skills and knowledge to provide high quality care and support. And we'll also be talking about how investing in this learning can actually support you keep your staff. You know, there's very strong links between offering training opportunities and low turnover rates. So again, I'll put the link in the chat, and I know they'll be on the LCAS website shortly as well, these slides. Contact details, I cover South West London. My contact Selena covers North West London. If you're from another part of London, just get in touch with me and I can put you in touch with the relevant colleague. Thank you, everybody. If there's any questions, let me know. I'm aware we've kind of gone over time a little bit.
Thanks, Laura. Very useful stuff. Two things. Just succession planning. I come across that time and time again, that people don't have any succession planning, and they don't actually often have a working business continuity plan. And the other thing is digitization. This is coming up more and more. It's a facet of the way that CQC are going to be inspecting. And you cannot ignore going digital. And if you buy the right software, then you do have to put some work into actually filling it in. It won't, to a degree, do it for you. But there's an awful lot of information out there. And we've been fortunate to have Paul Harper with us a couple of times. If you need information on that side, do contact either Skills for Care or contact ourselves, and we'll put you in touch with people that can help you. There is funding available, and there's a lot of training out there as well, which can give you the support that you need. Okay, any questions for anybody before we bring the meeting to an end? Okay, just a couple of points. For the South West London boroughs, if you're looking to recruit, Skills for Care have funded LCAS, and we're working with Purple Tribe on a recruiting initiative. So contact me, let me know. Give me your name, organisation, and a phone number, please, either in the chat or just contact me by email afterwards. A lot of you were using the South East London Keeping Well website, which is now closed. That portal is now closed. The North West London Keeping Well website and portal is still open. There's an awful lot of information on there, so you can use that one. Again, questions have been asked. We have a face-to-face meeting planned for the 31st of this month in Fulham Broadway. We're considering that at the moment because there's actually a rail strike on that day, which may affect transport. And there will be another virtual meeting on June the 14th, and we'll put the recording of this and the slides on the website as soon as possible. So many thanks to all. Thanks very much to the presenters, and we look forward to seeing you again shortly. Thanks now. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks all.